helping people cope with and overcome life's challenges. This is Life Transformations with Michael Hart, certified Christian counselor and director of Ottawa's Elim Counselling Services.
Hi, this is Michael Hart of Elim Counselling Services, and I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of the Life Transformation Radio Show. Today we have another interesting show lined up for you. Today's show is entitled The Cultic Family and How to Overcome It. Stay tuned because we are going to tell you how to identify if you're living in a cultic family, what we mean by a cultic family, and if you are, what are some of the dangers, the pitfalls, and how to overcome it. But before I do so, let me welcome those of you who are joining us for the first time, and also those of you who are repeat listeners. But for those joining us for the first time, I would like to tell you a little bit about the ministry and about how to get a hold of us. Elim is a professional counseling organization that provides professional counseling from a Christian perspective. Yes, we are trained psychotherapists, but the difference is we believe in the spiritual dimension. We believe in the power of God's word, and we incorporate it in what we do. Our services are recognized by most insurance companies, and so if you do have a health benefit plan, you might be able to get your services covered under that plan. Another thing that sets us apart from others is that we try to meet everyone regardless of their financial means to pay. So if you are thinking that I need help but I just cannot afford it, give us a call because we might be able to work something out for you. We offer a sliding scale whereby we try to tailor the fee, the counseling fee, to your financial situation. So don't let finances become a barrier to you. To get a hold of us, you can call us at 613-699-1677. Again, 613-699-1677. You can also find out more about the ministry by going to our website at elimcounselingministry.com. Elim is spelled E-L-I-M, counseling with two L's. .com, elimcounselingministry.com. Call us or visit us on our website and we'll be happy to help you. Today's show with me in studio today to do today's show is Melissa Waggott. Welcome, Melissa.
Good to see you again, Michael.
Good to have you here.
And before we get into today's show, I hope people are already getting excited about what we're going to discuss. You wanted to give the listeners a bit of an update about a conference that's coming up in Cornwall, or seminar, I should say, actually,
right
towards the end of the month.
Yes. So our seminar in Cornwall is actually been shifted. I think we have announced it on the air a few times as being the 30th of June, but it has been moved to the 6th of July, and it is in Cornwall at the Harvest Christian Fellowship in Cornwall. If you just type in Harvest Christian Fellowship, you will get all the information about how to get there, and it's very easy to find actually from Ottawa. So if you're traveling from Ottawa, don't let that be a barrier to you. It's very easy to navigate, and it takes only about an hour and 10 minutes from Orleans, because I do have an office there as well, and I go there to see clients from time to time, and the drive is not that far. So the seminar that we'll be having is on anxiety and depression, and this seminar is entitled Fearless. So we're talking about how to overcome fears that sabotage people in their lifelong goals and prevent people from pursuing their dreams in life and from fulfilling their full potential. So we're going to be sharing strategies, giving out tools, and just helping people to know how to overcome fear. So Fearless is the title.
And so who should attend this seminar? Who's your target audience?
This seminar will benefit people who are going through negative self-talk, or struggling with anxiety, or struggling with depression. And the last show we talked about the imposter syndrome, and one of the things that drive the imposter syndrome is fear, where people feel that despite the fact that they're qualified, they still can't do the job that God has called them to do. And so for people who are struggling with fear, sabotage, and self-talk, it's a seminar that can actually help you to overcome those negative tendencies. I think also the seminar can be very beneficial for people who are leaders of congregation, people who are pastors or youth group leaders, or just people who would like to have the resources to be able to help a friend. The other day, I was walking in the mall, and a lady ran up to me and she said, Michael. I didn't recognize her, but she said, Michael, I was at your last conference last September, and I said, thank you very much for attending, and just said, I just had to tell you that the information that I got from that conference that you had, the tools that were given out, I was able to use that tool to help a friend who was going through a very hard time, and I just wanted to thank you. So for the seminar, when you attend seminars and conferences, it's not necessarily because you are suffering with that, but I think as believers, we're actually on the front line of the battle of the mind, and we are on the front line because the lay people in churches are actually some of the first people that know of someone who is depressed or someone who is going through anxiety. Pastors are also on the front line because they're actually the first people that people who are suffering go to. And so I think it's very important for the body of Christ to become equipped with the tools necessary to help others.
And if people want to attend this conference, do they need to sign up beforehand, or can they just show
Yes,
up at the door?
seating is limited, and so it's very important to give us a call at 613-699-1677 to call up. You can also email us by using the email on our website at elimcounselingministry.com. Elim again is ELIM, counseling with 2 L's ministry.com. And I'd just like to say thanks to those of you who have made it possible for this ministry to be able to offer seminars like this. This seminar is actually free. There is no cost to this seminar. And so one of the reasons we are able to do this is for people who support the ministry, like the pastor in whose church it's being held, Pastor Roy Stevens, who would like to thank him for making his facilities available. And we want to thank people who donate to this ministry to let us have the resources that we are able to help others. So when you make a donation to us, you help us in many different ways. You help us to be able to do seminars like this free of cost. You also help us to be able to subsidize the rate of other people who might not be able to pay for counseling but desperately needs it.
And so now we're going to get into the bulk, I think, of today's show. And you gave us the lead in that we're going to be talking about the Cultic family. But I think before we get too far into today's topic, it's probably important to clarify what we mean by the Cultic family, because I'm just getting this picture of probably people's minds listening that they're thinking of people in those weird kind of silvery robes. There's a vat of Kool-Aid in the corner or something. That's not necessarily the type of cultic family we're talking about. Yes,
that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about Kool-Aids and people in long gowns. We're talking about families that have the trademarks of a cult. And it's very, very, very scary and alarming to think that many families, even Christian families, sometimes have all the hallmarks of a cult. And today in today's show, I'm going to be outlining what are some of those hallmarks, what are some of the similarities. So listen in, and maybe you can begin to tick off and to say, yes, that is my family. Or no, I thank God that's not my family, and I'm okay. But it's very important because a lot of times these hallmarks are very, very subtle and it's not noticeable, but it's very cult-like, and it's very important to be able to identify them. And once you have identified them, you can see the need to be free. But the sad reality is that many people who are in these cultic family, they worship like they worship the leader, the central person of this family, as if they're actually a godlike figure. And so I guess I just given away one of the first hallmark of a cultic family. One of that first hallmark is that the family is centered around one individual.
So further to that, if we were to walk in on an evening dinner kind of thing situation with a family that has these sort of cultic tendencies, they're worshiping that leader central figure, what other things would we see them doing that would make them similar to that sort of cult type mentality?
Right. So it's important to understand that we're not talking about just one person being the head, because I think there are biblical grounds for the husband, for example, to be the leader of the family. And, but when that leadership is taken to an extreme where the person, everyone else in the family, their needs are secondary, and the need of that one person trumps the need of everyone else. That's when it becomes cult like, because in a cult, the members are just there to serve the leader. And so in a cultic family, what we find is that it is centered around one person. It's not necessarily the husband. Sometimes it can be the mother who, because of her personality or personality disorder, or because of wounds that she have encountered in her life, she operates in a way that everyone else know that this person, we have to tailor our life to fit the needs of this person.
And so, how do people in this central figure role get that control? Like, I would assume it must be something that happens over time.
hmm hmm So one of the ways in which this happened, Melissa, I think that's a very good question. And one of the ways in which this happened is that people who are in this cult-like environment, they know the personality of the leader, what the leader likes, what the leader doesn't like, and they pay dearly if they step out of line. So in the cultic family, let us say that the cultic family is resolving around a mother. So people in that situation will know mom is always right. It doesn't matter if we can say, if mom is saying the sky is blue, the sky is pink, and we know that the sky is not pink, we need to say yes, mom is right. Don't challenge mom. Whatever she say is right, or whatever dad does is right. And what I find in cultic family, even in Christian circle, what is alarming is that in the cultic family, sometimes some of these things that the leader holds on to and believes in is contrary to the word of God, but others in the family still go along with it.
So, what kind of actions does that leader person do to make someone, like you gave the example of the sky being pink, like to actually say, okay, mom, you're right, the sky is pink? Do they punish people when they say no? Like, no, the sky's blue. Is it a punishment thing that they exert, or is it a power thing? Like, how do you get to that point where you just can't stand up for yourself and everyone's going along with it?
A lot of situations, that's a good question, Melissa. And I think in many situations, the way this come about is that the leader might have narcissistic tendencies where they're very self-centered, and part of the trait of narcissist is that they have what is known as the narcissistic rage. The literature talks about that element of being a narcissist, where there is a rage that narcissists have when they're challenged, when they don't get their own way. And so people within that cultic system, that cultic family system that resolves around the narcissist, learns very early on that if we challenge mom or challenge dad, then it's going to be World War III, and it's going to be chaos. Or sometimes it might be more subtle. It might not be chaos, but one of my clients talk about the subtle withdrawal of of her mom, where if she were to question anything that mom did or mom said or didn't do something perfectly, then mom would withdraw her love for 4 days. So she would just get this silent treatment for 4 days, and she said this is unbearable. I fear those days because I know what it feels like not to have, not to for mom to be to be interacting with me and just to be going around the house with setting this atmosphere of gloom that affects everyone in the household. So I think through those kind of punishment, overt and covert ways of punishing people for stepping out of line, people learn that either there's going to be this explosion or there's going to be this withdrawal of love, and so we keep in line. The same thing happened in cults. When you have in real in religious cults, when you have things that are when we have a leader that everything resolves around the leader, if someone in that cultic organization steps out of line and challenge the leader, then that person is going to hear sermons from the pulpit that they know this is about me. So it can either be that kind of a overt way of saying, there is someone here who is challenging the Lord's anointed and, making that person feel condemned in their seat. Or it can be more overt. A friend of mine talked about how he stood up to a leader who was known to be having sexual relationship with young girls in the church. This was many, many years ago. And he spoke up about it. And one day he turned up for church and communion was being served. And what he noticed is that the communion plate was just uh, passing him by and he wasn't allowed to take anything out of it. And he wasn't told he couldn't take communion. He just wasn't able to get to the plate. And, and so, my friend was telling me that all his services in the church was withdrawn. He was a good singer. He couldn't sing anymore. He couldn't, all of his leadership duties were taken away from him without a word being said. He just was not allowed to do it. So that kind of punishment that comes on leaders in religious cult can also be in the family system, where a person is punished in subtle ways or more overt ways for stepping out of line.
And the underlying message is those who dissent will pay dearly.
Absolutely. And similarly in cult, we have what we call labeling. So that is one of the hallmarks of cults, where if you step out of line, then you're given names. You're given names as you're rebellious, sinner, infidel, heathen, different names or labels are put on you. And so in the cultic family, the same thing happened. You might just happen to be that child with a voice, that child that can reason, and that child that will say, why mom, or why dad, or yes, we know the sky isn't pink, mom. And just because of that, you are given a label, and the label could be you're rebellious, right? Or you're sinful.
You're difficult.
Yes, or you're not honoring. You're not honoring your mom or your dad, and so the labels are a very common element of the cultic family as well. If you've just joined us, you're listening to the Life Transformation Radio Show. I'm your host, Michael Hart of Elim Counselling Services, and with me today in studio is Melissa Waggett, and the subject of today is the cultic family and how to survive it. So we have been talking about how some families resemble a cult, and if you have missed the first part of this show, you can listen to it on our website by going to elimcounselingministry.com. Elim is spelled Elim, counseling with 2 L's, ministry.com. Or if you have a question you would like to ask us, give us a call at 613-699-1677. And thank you very much for joining us today.
So thus far, we really talked about sort of the mom-dad dynamic as potentially being someone who's in this family leadership role. Does it just have to be either the mom and the dad, or could it be anyone in the family that exhibits this type of control and influence, or maybe that narcissistic type personality?
Yes. And sometimes it can be a child as well, that because of their personality type or because of the fact that they're very volatile, the family resolves everything around the need of that child. And so the child becomes the center, and the other children in the household can understand that this is revolving around the child. But it is more common that in the cultic family, when we talk about the cultic family, it is mostly a leader in the family, such as a one of the parent that is being referred to in this context. Another element of the cultic family, I talked about how in cultic situation in churches or in religious groups where there is a cult, the leaders are entitled to special privileges or special laws that do not go to the rest of the congregation. In some of the cults that have been uncovered in the States, we know that the leaders, some of these leaders are having sexual relationships with girls as young as 12 or even 9 years old. But because they were the leader, it doesn't matter what the Bible says, it's okay. Or they were having many wives, but it doesn't matter because it's the leader and he has this special privilege. So in cultic family, we find the same kind of thing happening where the leader will have special privilege. The leader can be sexually immoral, and the rest of the family knows about it, and it is supposed to be a Christian family, but nobody challenges the leader. Nobody says, dad, this is wrong, or mom, this is wrong. As a matter of fact, this person is given a free pass, a free pass to do whatever. And what happened in those kind of situations, because of the need for the leader to maintain that situation, it brings us to another uh, characteristic of the cultic family, is that there is a lot of control. So in order to keep everyone in line, there has to be a lot of control. So it's control in the sense that you can't just bring anyone over anytime that you want. And it's becomes like the secret society almost, where it's us versus the rest of the world. So in that kind of control, it's structured in such a way that to maintain the secrecy. So there's another hallmark as well, a lot of secrets. So there are families, if you're in a family where there are things going on in that household that contravenes the word of God, but there is this sense of don't talk. Though we can, no one is to know what goes, or what happens here stays here. And there's this secrecy, there's code within the family system, that all of this dysfunction, you can't be spoken of outside of this household context. So that kind of control is usually maintained by this strong dominant figure, the central figure of the family, called that makes people fall in line and has this rigid control.
And so what tends to happen to family members that maybe get brave, or something happens and they break that code and they go against the grain and they speak out? What tends to happen to them?
Yes. So other than the punishment of being labeled that I've talked about so far, another thing that happened is that this person is often ostracized. So we have situations in adulthood where one family member decide or realizes that this is ungodly. What is happening here is not right, and they decide that sometimes it is incest that's happening within the family household, and someone decides this is not right, this happened to me, I'm going to speak out about it. In the cultic family, what you will find happening is that this person will be ostracized. And so because of the code of silence that everyone else has vowed, as given into, they will see this person as being doing something wrong, even though it's happening to them as well. For example, sexual incest, even though it has happened to others, they will not come forward with the person who speaks up and say, yes, you're right, this did happen to me. As a matter of fact, the members are often so brainwashed that they go into a state of denial, where they will accuse the other person of being evil, of trying to bring down the name of the family, and it's all done because they have been brainwashed by this cultic leader of the family to go along with what has been happening in the household.
Which again further reinforces that person not wanting to speak out. So I don't know if are there any other hallmarks that are seen there?
Absolutely. There's one more So that's one thing. As I say the word absolute, I remember that my my daughter tells me that I say absolutely too much on the air.
So she
So
speaks out.
yeah,
There's
she
no cone of
speaks out. She
silence. There
speaks
you
out.
go.
So I am absolutely not going to say absolutely for the rest of the show. I'll try not to say absolutely. So I'm going to absolutely get to the other point today, right? In case she's listening, I'm not saying absolutely again. Okay. So one of the other hallmark of the Cultic family is that there is this unreasonable expectation that is put on family members. In one of the family that I dealt with, this mother had become the central figure of the family. The father worshipped her. All the siblings, the seven siblings, including my client, worshipped her in the sense that they all catered to her needs. And so it happened that my client got married, and my client was living here in Ottawa. The mother was living in another city. And so this daughter was expected to drive every Sunday several hours to visit her mother, even, and she had to do it religiously. She could not, because the guilt that would be put on her head if she didn't was tremendous. So she kept going Sunday after Sunday, neglecting her own family needs, causing conflict with her husband. But she had to go because she had been so brainwashed that mom needed her, that she had to go. And her mom, who was fairly young at the time, in her 50s, she had to go, and she had to buy groceries for her mom, even though her mom could drive and buy groceries for herself. But the control was maintained. So not that hallmark of unreasonable expectation. If you're in a family system where you're realizing that there is this unreasonable expectation that has been put on you, and it's burdensome and it's onerous, and you just have still find yourself falling in line even though you're overwhelmed and stressed, it's possible that you're in a cultic family.
So what can people do if they find themselves in this situation?
That's a very good question. So the cultic family, because of the structure, the secrecy, the fact that it is so insulated, makes it very difficult for people to come out of it. So one of the first steps that needs to happen to break free from that system is to start talking to someone else. Start telling people around you about your experiences, what you have gone through. Find someone you can confide in. If there is no one in your circles that you feel you can confide in, start speaking with a counselor, because counselors are very good, very well trained in recognizing these kind of dysfunction. Whereas if you're in the family system, you don't see it. One girl that was in this cultic family and was being sexually abused by her dad, even into her marriage, didn't realize that what her dad was doing to her was inappropriate until someone said to her, that's not right, that's not normal, that's not what a dad doesn't do that to their daughters. So it's very important for you to begin to talk to others, to tell others your story, because I think that's a very important first step. Another important thing that needs to be done, if you realize that you're in a cultic family, is to realize that what you're feeling is real, because people begin to doubt, maybe there's something wrong with me, maybe I am the problem, maybe everyone else in the family is right and I am wrong. So it's very important to realize that the scars that you have, the emotional scars, and sometimes even the physical scars, they're real. The control is real, and that you need to do something about that. I will be continuing the rest of this talk as a additional podcast on my website. So if you want to hear more about what else you can do, visit our website at elimcounselingministry.com. And I see that we're almost out of time for today, Melissa.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, we have to wrap up right here. So until next time, this is your host, Michael Hart of Elim Counseling Services.
And Melissa Waggett.
We pray that God would bless you in all your relationships and keep you sound in mind and pure in heart. And please keep in mind that to get a hold of us, you can call us at 613-699-1677 or go to our website at elimcounselingministry.com. God bless you, and thank you very much for listening to this Elim broadcast. As promised on the radio station, I mentioned that I will be doing an extended version of this program because I think it is such an important program. So here is the extended version for those of you who have come to the website and is listening to the podcast. This is exclusive to our website. So what I wanted to do is to talk about other steps that you could take if you find that you're in a cultic family and you want to be find freedom from that bondage that you have been under, or you wanted to see if you could bring about changes in your family. I wanted to give a few other steps that weren't covered on the radio station. So one of the first step that you can take in confronting the issues that are existing in your family is to write a letter to the family, or to the main person who is the center of the family cult, stating stating the things, stating how you have been affected and what is wrong, what are the things that are wrong with the family. So the reason for writing that is if you are to try to confront this issue verbally, it's likely that because of the level of control that exists, you're likely to clam up. Secondly, you might not be able to get everything out because the person will interrupt you or become angry. We talk about the narcissistic rage. You might experience the rage from the person, and before you even get through half of what you want to say. But there's something very powerful about writing a letter. So what you could do is address the letter to each family member if you think it is something that has to be written to each member of the family, or you could write just to the central person that has perpetrated the wrong to the other members of the family, just stating how you feel. In writing this letter, I think it is very important to focus on the tone of the letter. You don't want to come across as confrontational. You want to make sure that the letter is read by someone for tone so that you can communicate with the right tone. This will give you a better chance of being heard. So when I get my clients to write such a letter, one of the things I do is to make sure that I have an opening that is pleasant. So even in the worst of families, there might be some things that are still praiseworthy. So you could start your letter talking about the things that are some of the things you appreciate about the family, some of the ways in which the family has been good to you, and then you have a however statement that transitions into the issues that you want to address with that family. I think doing that is very powerful because then you already have grabbed their attention in the first sentence, and someone who is a narcissist like to think, wow, this is a letter of praise. And so after you have uh, talked about the things that are good, they're more likely to read the rest of the letter than if you start out just going right to all the things that are wrong in your family. The second thing that you want to do in trying to break free, or setting yourself free from the bondage of this cultic family is to be aware of the labels that have been placed on you and try to shed those labels. These labels are more than just word. It puts you into a state of mind. And if you feel that you are the rebellious one, you're the difficult one, or you are the failure in the family, or whatever title you have been given, it's very important for you to come up with an opposite label than the one that you have been given. How do you want to see yourself? How does God see you? And and write a statement to yourself embracing the new label. The label that was been given to you by your family, by a family member, or by the members of your family, is meant to control you, is meant to demean you, is meant to keep you in a place of a place where you remain under the influence of the cultic family. So it's very important for you to come up with a new statement as to how God see you or to how you want to see yourself. So instead of being seen as someone who is incapable or someone who is a failure, you can see yourself as the strong one, as the one who is capable of doing all things because Christ strengthens you. You can see yourself as being obedient to Christ instead of taking on the label of rebellious or difficult. You can give yourself new titles that match how you want to view yourself. And even though this might seem like a trivial thing, names are very, very important. The Bible tells us that death and life is in the power of the tongue. Another thing that needs to be done, one of the other steps that needs to be taken in order to break free from the influence of the cultic family, is to recognize and write down the strategies of manipulation. Families who operate like a cult have different ways in which they manipulate people into obedience. For some cultic family leader, it is tears. For others, it is rage. For others, it is withdrawal. For others, it is the guilt trip. So your family, uh, if you are from a family where there is a cultic kind of leadership and everyone else is falling in line and being manipulated to follow, you need to be able to identify very clearly in your mind what are the manipulation strategies, because chances are that you have been falling to those strategies over and over again without realizing that's what you are doing. Maybe you will need professional help to be able to identify some of these strategies, because I've seen family members that they've been so brainwashed that they're unable to see the manipulation, whereas others on the outside can see the manipulation from a mile away. Another thing that you need to do, and I think this is very, very important uh, if you're going to change the dynamic that exists between you and the family member. If you want to break free of the cult, it's going to be very, very important for you to set boundaries. Set boundaries for yourself. In cultic family, there is an enmeshment where it's not clear where the life of the cultic leader in the family ends and where your life begins. The two lives are seen as one. That is why in some families, what each family member does has to match up to what the cultic leader wants, or else they will be punished and ostracized. You have to marry the person that they want you to marry. You have to have the wedding where they want you to have it. You have to do the subjects in university that they want you to do. You have to take the job that they want you to have. The reason for that is a psychological a principle that we call enmeshment. The two lives, your life is so enmeshed with that family member who is the cultic leader that they don't distinguish in their mind that you have a separate life. And so you are expected to do things exactly how they would do it or how they would want it to be done. So, in breaking free of the cultic family system, it's important to set boundaries, and boundaries sometimes needs to be set with the help of a qualified third party. So if you're finding it difficult to set these boundaries, give us a call 613-699-1677, or send us an email by going to our website elimcounselingministry.com, and we will be able, or one of our professional therapists here will be able to help you identify what boundaries needs to be set, what boundaries are appropriate. One of the mistakes that is often made by people who are fleeing cultic family is that they tend to go to extremes. So they go from doing everything in the way that the family wants and being around the family 24/7 because of the guilt trip if they don't attend family functions, until one day they just decide, I don't want anything more to do with this family, and they move away to Australia or to some place in the world where they never have to see the family again, or they change their number if they're in the same city and they move to a new house and no one in the family knows how to contact them. So if that is done, then there might be cases where that needs to be done. But I think that those two extremes are not necessarily the solution. One of the solution that can be done and is to just set boundaries. Set boundaries saying this is where this will no longer be tolerated. This is the lines that are going to be drawn. This is how often I'm able to visit you, and then having recognized what the manipulations are, when those manipulations try to pull you back into the system to do things the way they want it to be done, you will be able to say the boundaries are the boundaries that are there to protect me and to help me keep my distance. Another point, and the last point I want to make in helping you to break free from this family system, and I may have touched on it a little bit in the radar podcast, is that it's very important to document things that happen, because of manipulation, people who are in cultic family systems are often uh, are often confused by the cultic leader, where they are not sure anymore what happened, how things happen, and you're likely to begin to think that you're losing your mind or you're forgetting how things happen. But that's just part of the manipulation, where they rewrite history to make things seem that it's different than what happened. I never did that to you when you were 8 years old. I didn't cause a fight last Christmas family gathering. It's all in your imagination. But the fact is that they are rewriting history, and they're not necessarily doing this with some kind of malicious intent. But maybe their self-esteem is so fragile that to admit that they're wrong, they just can't tolerate that. So it's a self-protective mechanism by which they keep their fragile self-esteem protected. So it's important for you to be able to differentiate between what is reality and what it's not. So when something happened, write it down. So not necessarily for you to prove to them that yes, this did happen, but for you to prove to yourself that you are not losing your mind, that things did in fact happen. And so document, write about your pain, how you feel when things happen, write about what happened, and you can do this in the form of a journal. And this is doing two things at the same time. It's helping you to cope, because by writing things out, you're coping better. But by also writing things out, you're keeping yourself sane to say, this did happen. So until next time, this is your host, Michael Hart of Elim Counseling Services. Thank you very much for joining us in this extended edition of the Life Transformation Radio Show. And join us again next Monday morning at 9:30 as we bring you another interesting topic. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, may God bless you and keep you sound in mind and pure in heart.